Hello everyone, my name is Eric. I'm a limited licensed master social worker and psychotherapist. I've been working with children, youth, and adults for the last 10 years. The dream is a crucial but largely neglected aspect of modern psychotherapy. Historically, analyzing dreams was considered to be the primary mode of psychotherapeutic intervention as the gateway to the unconscious and all of its insights. Entire systems of psychotherapy were built around the critical importance of the dream, its material, its themes and feelings and symbols. Yet, modern psychotherapy glosses over the dream in favor of the semi-conscious, here and now problems that frustrate our daily experience, all the while choosing to remain ignorant of the extremely likely possibility that our dreams might have something to say about our waking troubles. Manly P. Hall writes, "It is quite proper and right to say that we do receive a kind of education from our dreams. If we do not take advantage of this right and privilege we have in nature, then the fault lies primarily within ourselves and not nature's intention. If humanity, from the early part of its culture, had accepted the meaning of its dreams and their symbols more generally and generously, the chances are that there would be less need for psychologists today." The implication is that our dreams have the ability to teach us things about ourselves. They sometimes show us ways of relating to ourselves and others. They sometimes provide us with insight into underlying psychodynamic processes that affect how we perceive the world around us, into aspects of our personal shadows that remain unconscious to us, and sometimes they communicate their intention through obscure archetypal symbolism. These dreams typically represent a breakthrough or an expansion in the personal consciousness of the dreamer. And still, there are some dreams that are so synchronistic and meaningful that they border on being divinely inspired or prophetically accurate. Such is the case with the personal dream that I will share in this video. Admittedly, much of what I know about dream interpretation is based on Jungian analytical psychological theory, so I'll be exploring and interpreting my dream according to a loosely Jungian framework. The Jungian system of dream interpretation requires not only an understanding of archetypes and mythological and religious symbolism, but also the psychological types and the complementary and compensatory function of dreams. That's not to say that Jungian dream interpretation is the only proper way to understand a dream, or that it is somehow better or more accurate than any other theory of dream interpretation. It simply comes down to this: what makes the most sense to the dreamer? Manly Hall writes, "What do symbols mean? Intrigued by the mystery, the mind cannot rest until it has discovered what it believes to be the correct meaning. What really happens is that the individual brings his own mental and emotional experience to bear upon the puzzle. It may well be that the symbol has no meaning, but we read into it our own sense of values. In the end, we solve not the symbol, but ourselves." And in this regard, it is important to remember that when interpreting a dream, it doesn't matter how much knowledge one has of archetypes, symbolism, history, mythology, or religion. If the dreamer does not agree with the interpretation, it is wrong. This is why, in the most useful interpretation of dreams, it is almost exclusively left up to the dreamer to determine the meaning of their symbols and ultimately discover their message. The therapist is only to be used as a reference for what symbols could possibly mean in their historical, mythical, or religious context, but not for deciding for a patient what they mean in the context of their own subjective experience. I usually tell my patients, "You know yourself better than I could ever know you, so you will have to be the judge of whether this interpretation is accurate or not." To give a personal example of the highest order, many dreams are borderline inconsequential, and we can follow along with the Jungians that there are certainly little dreams and big dreams. Little dreams belong to the realm of the weekly or nightly experience of wish fulfillments and personal development dreams. They belong to the personal unconscious and relate mostly to subjective affects and experiences in the daily life of the dreamer. Big dreams, on the other hand, seem difficult to understand, with complex symbolism, discordant themes, unfamiliar feelings and faces. These dreams, where things seem illogical, where figures appear whom we've never known, where the only words we can find for the dream are, "What was that about?" These dreams are the big dreams of Jungian psychology, and they're the dreams in which archetypal motifs usually play out in an attempt to influence the course of psychic development. Manly Hall writes, "Our inner life is undoubtedly archetypal, and by that I mean it represents a pattern. Our internal organization is built upon a lawful formula and depends for its continuance upon obedience to fundamental laws of existence. Thus, we are law-abiding creatures inside ourselves, even though in our outer personality we may be a lawbreaker. Mentally and emotionally, we seek to outwit our own lawfulness. We find innumerable excuses. In the course of the ages, our external condition has come to deviate markedly from our internal nature. This is regarded as the final reality, and the problems that arise around us have precedence over the pressures that arise within us. If, therefore, as a result of tradition, heredity, indoctrination, and experience, with all of these to a measure misunderstood, we arrive at a certain conclusion or attitude, we may develop a total personality that is psychologically unsound. Yet this personality may not be so considered, either by the individual or by his associates, because he may live in a world in which this kind of unsoundness is prevalent. Since most people are like himself, he considers his own nature to be normal, and in this sense of normalcy, he goes on breaking rules and laws imposed by nature because others break them. Such laws as will bring with them immediate physical punishment we are inclined to keep. But laws that affect us primarily on a psychic level, we neither understand nor appreciate, nor do we sense the need to obey them. This means, substantially, that our inner life may not condone our outer conduct, be entirely sympathetic with it, or recognize it as the best course of action. To meet this situation, we build more and more rational defenses. We try to convince ourselves, psychologize ourselves, to permit ourselves to fall under the hypnosis of prevalent attitudes. Now, the hypnotized person must, to a measure, temporarily fulfill the wishes of the hypnotist. In the same way, a hypnotized society must meet the purposes or accepted procedures of that society. Once we assume the normalcy of a social pattern, this pattern begins to move upon us and require our allegiance. Thus, we may build up two distinct levels of psychic entity, with the outer level almost entirely dependent upon outward circumstances. From this psychic level comes a kind of static drag. It causes the traditionalist, the person who resists change, the dogmatist, and the exclusionist. It leads to legislation to protect entrenchment rather than progress. And all through this procedure, everyone is doing what he believes to be right, but no one knows what right actually means. Now, we can go along like this, making a very choice group of cultivated mistakes. We can go on breaking one natural law after another, and if our infringements are not too massive, we are likely to drift through the years with only those general discomforts and inconveniences that we can blame on somebody else. But actually, we are not living well. We are not being true to the rules of our own existence. We are betraying something within ourselves while trying to protect the surface of our consciousness. Jung defines archetypes as a priori conditioning factors that represent special psychological instances of biological patterns of behavior, which give all living organisms their specific qualities. When a dream features archetypal motifs, or if there is any archetypal symbolism throughout a dream, we can expect that the archetypes that are most likely to experience are the anima, animus, and shadow. As is the case for the dream that I am about to share. The dream that I had when I was in my mid-20s was probably one of the few truly archetypal dreams I remember having. For context, I was studying to get my degree in social work at this time. I was reading Jung heavily, but up until this point, esoteric and occult philosophy and symbolism had never really made an appearance beyond what I had read in Jung and Joseph Campbell. I was also single at the time, with no real relationship experience beyond the conventional, no-strings-attached one-night stand encounters that lacked any level of emotional depth or intimacy. this was my dream. I'm walking into a fictional apartment complex, hotel, motel, that is located down the road from my house. I know what I am there for. I am seeking sex with a prostitute. Inside the building is a seemingly endless gray hallway lined with black doors on each side. I walked up to one of the unnumbered doors and began to knock. Immediately, a figure came to greet me at the door. There was a hooded figure standing in the doorway and asked me, "What are you here for?" Panicked, I responded, "I don't know." The hooded figure then walked into the hallway in front of me, removed their hood, and revealed their face to me. The figure was a black woman, bald head, and had an Egyptian eye of Ra tattooed over what looked like a burned and scarred right eyeball. She said to me, "I'll be here when you need me," then turned around and walked down the endless hallway until disappearing. As you can imagine, waking up from this dream left me incredibly dumbfounded. It wasn't until much later that I was able to constellate even a marginally coherent interpretation. Given the woman's unknown appearance, I interpreted this as my anima figure in the dream. Unconscious, archetypal, and primordial, she revealed herself to me in the appearance of a bald black woman. Marie-Louise von Franz writes about the anima, "The most frequent manifestations of the anima takes the form of an erotic fantasy. This is the crude, primitive aspect of the anima, which becomes compulsive only when a man does not sufficiently cultivate his feeling relationships, when his feeling attitude towards life has remained infantile." She continues, "But I've said enough about the negative side of the anima. There are just as many important positive aspects. For example, whenever a man's logical mind is incapable of discerning facts that are hidden in his unconscious, the anima helps dig them out. Even more vital is the role the anima plays in putting a man's mind in tune with the right inner values and thereby opening the way for more profound inner depths." I feel that this is exactly what my personal anima image was doing for me in the dream. Following the archetypal symbolism of the Eye of Ra, I recognized this as the Egyptian eye, and upon waking from my dream I thought to myself, why was that important? Why did she have an Egyptian eye tattooed over her burned and scarred face? The open eye in general is a symbol of intellectual power, and the fact that it was specifically the Eye of Ra only made sense to me after a powerful experience of synchronicity. About a week later, I received my answer in the form of an advertisement for a book online. Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teachings of All Ages, the Encyclopedia of Masonic, Hermetic, Kabbalistic, and Rosicrucian Symbolical Philosophy. I can say with conviction that this book actually changed my life. I consider this instance of synchronicity to be a worldly example of the archetypes influencing my life in a manner that I had never thought possible. I truly believe that my dream revealed this book to me in a symbolic way, that my anima, my soul, helped tune me into perspectives, philosophies, and values that lay hidden not only to me, but to many of us, who have been indoctrinated into dogmatic systems that leave no room for psychological flexibility. This dream aided my personal psychological development, as well as my professional development, and invigorated me with such a passion for esotericism that I honor the link between modern psychology and ancient esoteric philosophy with the title of my YouTube channel and Instagram, Psych.osophy. The purpose of this video was primarily to demonstrate that our dreams are meaningful and useful if we know how to break them down and understand them. Not all of them are archetypal big dreams, but that doesn't mean that from time to time we don't have prophetic or apocalyptic or synchronistic dreams that occur to us from beyond our personal unconscious. When reading Jung and other Jungians, one often asks oneself, is any of this actually real, or is it all just an elaborate theory? From personal experience, I can say that I'm convinced of the existence of archetypes and archetypal dreams. I've worked with clients who have had their own archetypal dreams revealed to them in very familiar dream motifs. I remember a dream of a young 18-year-old homeless client of mine, where he was literally slaying a dragon. This person knew nothing of Jungian psychology or of the archetypes or the hero's journey, but he described it in such detail that I knew something big was about to happen for him. Within a few months, he was out on his own, working, taking care of his mother and siblings. Where he is now, I can't say. All I can say is that when the archetypes are ready to reveal themselves, their timing is never off. That concludes this episode of So, You Want to Learn Psychology? Next week, we'll pick back up on a specific book more in line with the first episodes of the series. If anyone has had any archetypal dreams of their own, I'd love to hear about them and how they've influenced your life in the comments. Until next time, thank you.